Hi everyone, we are on to chapter 9. So on this chapter, we're cutting back to Jessica and she's exploring their new home, and she comes up to a door, and this door has sort of a unique sort of sci-fi lock, although it's a little less unique nowadays. I would say it's what's called a palm lock. So she has to use, or someone would have to use the palm of their hand to basically press on the lock, and then the door will open. So she uses some special Bene Gesserit powers, not really powers, but training to manipulate the lock herself, and she's able to go into this room. And in this room, I think there's then another door that she goes into that leads into what's essentially a room full of plants, like a greenhouse. And this is exceptionally rare, she knows, for Arrakis, because this place is a desert planet. Water is extremely precious, and these plants are like taking water for multiple hundreds of people. Still, she also feels really happy to see all these plants that remind her of her home world, and she's kind of thinking, did the Duke Leto, was he the one that ultimately made this for her? She's not totally sure. She notices on the far end of the room a notepad, and she goes to it and she reads, "To the Lady Jessica, may this place give you as much pleasure as it has given me. Please permit the room to convey a lesson we learned from the same teachers. The proximity of a desirable thing tempts one to overindulgence. On that path lies danger. My kindest regards, Margot Lady Fenring." So that last line of this note, "on that path lies danger," is sort of a signal to other Bene Gesserit that a Bene Gesserit wrote this note. And she realizes there must also be a secret message hidden somewhere in this room. So she searches around and eventually finds it. And in this message, Margot Lady Fenring, who's actually the previous Duke's wife, warns her of this betrayal that's going to be happening to the Atreides. So Jessica's like, oh no, this is terrible. And she realizes that Paul and others are obviously in danger. So she's going to go rush out and check on Paul, who was in that bedroom. When suddenly Paul springs into the room, and he has the Hunter Seeker, and I apologize. In the last video, I said he smashed it on the ground. He didn't. He just smashed it against the wall. So he still has it with him. Then he tosses it into a basin of water that's in this room with Jessica, and he says, "I'm going to short it out." And that basically means it's not going to harm anyone at this point. So they're wondering, how could this happen? Who could potentially be the one that may be betraying us all? So they ponder that for a minute. And at one point, as they're thinking this through, Paul actually gets a little bit mouthy with Jessica, and she quite mildly, in my opinion, scolds him and says, basically says you're better than your father. So this is interesting because she's noting that she sees both good and bad essentially in her husband, but she sees in Paul more opportunity for him to push through the vices of his father and become a better man. So I think that's some interesting foreshadowing about what Paul's destiny ultimately will be. Before they exit the room, the shout-out Mapes Fremen woman comes in and also is talking about betrayal. And they all continue to ponder who could potentially be the betrayer in this whole event. But before they depart to go warn the Duke, Paul's father, at Paul's urging, they look out the window and see some strange signaling happening. Like in the mountains far away, there's some flashes of light, like mirrors maybe reflecting the sunlight, and then some other flashes coming closer from the city. And at this point, we end the chapter with some foreboding that, oh no, Jessica realizes the Harkonnens are on the move. She believes they're doing the signaling, planning for essentially an attack, is the way I'm interpreting this. So kind of leaves on that cliffhanger. The tension's really ramping up here. So we'll see what happens next. My guess is we're getting pretty close to some epic fighting, and we'll see. Before I get into that, if you want to continue this journey with me as I read through Dune for the first time, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you enjoy sci-fantasy, as I've noted in some other videos, I've written a sci-fantasy book. It's called The Song of Imaru, Earth's Door, and I'd love for you to give it a try. More information in the description below. Until next time, hope you have a great week. Bye-bye.